Welcome back to the VHS vault. Jason is here. I'm here. We're a little bit giddy with excitement, Jason. Can you tell us why?
I'm vibrating with anticipation because we are going to be looking at one of the greatest confrontations in human history. Freddy
'Cause- oh,
versus Jason.
wow.
The
This
movie
is a
they
big
said was
deal.
never going to happen happened. Made a lot of money and they never made sequels.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Freddy versus Jason. Really, the impetus, our conversation about that film was the impetus of why, really, we started VHS Vault in many, many ways, Jason.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Um, and if any of you been watching, or if you haven't been watching, we've already talked the original Friday the 13th series of films. We've done it with Nightmare on Elm Street. This is this is the Avengers Endgame of those two franchises at this point, would be fair to say, I think.
If the
Um,
Avengers had one hero and Thanos had one bad guy, and we spent a lot of time with normies, yes, this would be Avengers Endgame. Yes.
let's face it, though, crossovers in the cinema at this point didn't exist. This is a big deal to have two different film franchises meet in one movie. Honestly, at that time, Jason, I don't think I'd ever come across that.
I don't think I ever really thought this movie was going to happen. I know they tried to make it happen a few times.
Mm.
Um, that's actually why we have Wes Craven's New Nightmare, because he heard they were trying to do Freddy versus Jason and he was like, nope. Uh, but yeah, it happened and I'm glad it did because this
It's
movie
also
is
the
dope.
reason we got Jason X as well, wasn't it? It was Jason X.
They had to make a Jason movie because they had to keep the rights to the character.
Mm.
That's what that was. So that they could do Freddy versus Jason, which I'm glad they did
Um,
because that movie is
it's
also dope or it's dopey. I don't know, one or the other.
one or the other. It's kind of a misnomer though that it's Freddy versus Jason, because it's Freddy versus Jason later on. But
Yeah.
it's really a buddy picture for those two a little bit.
Well,
Buddy
why
in the
wouldn't they
sense
be
that
buddy pictures? Why
somebody's
wouldn't they be buddy?
manipulating the other one, but you know, there you go, a bit
It
of a
makes
puppet
sense
master.
story wise, though. You got to make Jason upset somehow.
Okay, so 2003, this film is almost 20 years old. It was directed by a young, up and coming director at the time called Ronnie Yu, who I believe was where they all came from at that time, big on music videos and things like that.
And you can
Produced
tell.
by produced by Sean S. Cunningham himself, not produced by
Yes.
Wes Craven though. I thought it was
No,
interesting.
Wes didn't want anything to do with it.
No.
No.
Now let's have a look at the cast, Jason. Robert Englund returns playing the titular role.
Yes.
Why? Where was our buddy? Why did they use the other Jason?
Well, Kane Hodder was asked not to return to play Jason Voorhees this time around because they wanted a Jason who was the physical match of Freddy, who was kind of the same size.
Mm.
I think that was a slap in the face, to be perfectly honest, because I think Kane Hodder by that point was Jason. It's like the way Matthew Lillard is Shaggy, and every time somebody else plays Shaggy, you just like you're not Shaggy. They brought in Ken Kurtzinger to play Jason, who is the same height and roughly the same build as Robert England, and it's okay. He was fine, but he's
Mm.
not. He. Yeah, it's more of a respect thing to me. They should
Yeah,
have kept Kane Hodder.
I think the whole size argument is mute point, because Tom Cruise has been made to look like he's 6'2" in movies since he's been in movies. So the
Yeah,
height difference, the size, all that, that's filming. That's down to composition. Either way, how much money did when you see this movie straight off the bat when it starts, Jason? It looks like they spent a lot of money. I think this was the first time that I went, "Wow, this is really big budget." They've gone for it this time.
I do remember watching the trailer thinking, "Wow, there's actual cinematography in this movie." which is funny because I was referring to the shot of Freddy Krueger jumping out of the water, coming towards
Great
Jason,
shot.
which was a great shot. But in the movie, they just completely ruin it with the color saturation because in the trailer the shot
Yeah.
looks better.
No,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. They had to make it a red hue through the whole thing.
which
Gross.
looked terrible.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think the directing in this movie is that great. Um,
No,
too music video-y, in my opinion. But I don't see a number here for what they spent on this movie, but it does say that
$30
they
million.
spent 30 mil. Okay, I was going to say they spent $6 million on script development alone. So they cared about this. They wanted to make a quality product, and I think overall, despite the fact that the directing is very amateurish to say the least, I think that they pulled off a good looking movie. I mean, look at
They
that. That is
really
just a great
did.
shot.
You're right. This film, I really like. I really like this film, and yes, the directing is clunky, and yes, it's a shame because with a good director, they could have done something really, really interesting. But the script was there. That's why it works. The idea was well thought out, far as I'm concerned, because well, it's more well thought out than some of the other movies in these franchises. They actually went, well, if we're going to team these guys up together, how do we do it? And I think they came up with a great way to do it, Jason.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
bring back Pamela.
bring back Pamela.
Bring
No,
back
you have
Pam.
Freddy being forgotten because time has moved on, Jason. People
Yes.
have forgotten about Freddy, so they're not afraid of him. And if there's no fear, that's what he feeds on. That's what
And
he needs.
it's kind of funny because whenever we were talking about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that was in the original treatment that they wrote, was that Freddy Krueger was going to be this forgotten old man just kind of slinking around in the background of other people's dreams. And they took that and they recycled it into this movie, which I don't know how I don't know how Wes Craven feels about that because that was his idea, but I think it's kind of
Well,
clever.
yeah, this is clever what they do, and how does he get everyone to be afraid of him so he can come back? He's got to get somebody from hell who's as terrifying as him, and he finds him in Jason. And I'm telling you, just that idea alone, the fact that people have forgotten about him, and he's going to use Jason to bring the fear back so he can start getting back into business. It's ridiculous, but I buy in immediately with that, and I'm happy to go along with the ride. And I think it's such a clever idea that it's ridiculous, but it's okay. We know what the rules are now, and we know what we're headed towards. And that's where the strength of this film is. The strength is those two characters being able to be themselves at the best. What about Freddy here? Do you like this version of Freddy in this film?
This is classic Freddy. I think he was. I do like this alteration
Yeah,
to his
that's
makeup here at
Demon.
the
That's
end. Yeah,
in
Demon
Hell
Freddy.
Freddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this is a mixture of everything good and bad about Freddy. He is wisecracking. He is kind of a clown, but at the same time, he is also a threat. You do feel like he's going to get you. And
Yeah. Can I
yeah,
talk about that? The direct fourth wall breaking, Jason. I
oh
love
yeah.
it.
Oh, Freddy's always known he's in the movie. He's always known.
I love it. Oh, it's so good. And hey, look, even as a bong smoking caterpillar, he's terrifying.
Oh yeah, there was
Um,
something wrong with that whole scene. I just don't understand why they just didn't get Jason Mewes to play that part.
oh yeah, the stoner
They were
kid who
doing
is just literally Jay from Giant Silent Bob.
yeah, they were doing Jay from Clerks. Just get
Yeah,
Jason Mewes to play that. He would have been fine.
pretty nuts. But I mean, the fact especially that scene, I'm going, really? We're doing a bit of Alice in Wonderland kind of motif going on here. Where's this film kind of going? And there's lots of it in
Wherever
this
it
film.
wants. It's going
Wherever it wants. I mean, Jason on fire in a cornfield hacking kids.
Yes.
Amazing, right? Like
Amazing.
a great scene.
Amazing, but to me, it also highlights just how terrible the directing in this movie is. Because there is so much strobing and so much of that cranked down slow motion that
Yeah.
at certain points it becomes unwatchable. You have no idea what's going on.
Well, we
I
know
don't
they're doing
understand why
the.
I don't
We
understand why
know.
Ronnie you felt like you need to do that other than I know music video, go like this. I don't know.
Well, I think he was trying to harken back to the 12 frame a second thing they did in the first couple of films. But I'm going like, hey, the audience doesn't need that to be reminded. You could have moved on. Yeah, like 12 frames a second's not great. It's all blurry. I don't like
No.
that. But I
We
like the idea of seeing Jason on fire and just getting on with business. Very cool. I'm even happy with the gag that it's a keg of beer that puts him out. I'm okay with that as well.
well, the
I'm not
stuntman shouldn't be on fire forever.
no, no. So everything around Freddy and Jason, for the most part, is really good. Everything with them is really good. Even their fight, which seems a bit hokey at some points, I'm still buying in at every step of the way here. It's the kids continue to be the same issue, and why should this film be any different than the rest of them? It's a
Yeah.
little bit hit and miss.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I feel like I don't know the name of the kid who played Mark David, but I
Mm.
honestly feel like the movie should have followed him instead of Jason Ritter, because to me he was a much more
Yeah.
interesting character, and I feel like he had a lot more
He was.
personal involvement in it.
Yeah, Jason Ritter, as you mentioned. Obviously, this film is Freddy, Jason, but they're clearly trying to do a homage to these big franchises because the name of the lead character is Laurie. Is that not Laurie Strode from Halloween? Are you not making a direct reference to Halloween? I think
It
so.
kind of seems that way.
It does. It absolutely does. No, the kids are the kids. She actually annoyed me at some points, but she was serviceable and had to do what she needed to do.
I still think it's hilarious that they want us to think that this is a 17-year-old girl.
Oh yeah, no, she's about 35.
Like, sorry, no, she's got she's just been promoted to upper management. She's ready to start her dream of having two kids and finding a life mate. Yeah, that's not a 17-year-old girl. Sorry.
And
No.
I feel like I hate saying critical things about this film because I really, really, really like this film. However, the fact that when people die in this film, no giving is done for anyone, really. Like, friends are dying all around. They had 3 people die in one night. Their friends, their close personal friends. And 5 minutes later, they're going to a party. Like,
Can't you see how broken up Jason Ritter is, though? Look how sad he is.
Jason Ritter was competent in this film. I don't want to rag on him too much.
He was fine.
He was fine. He wasn't kind of the worst, but I don't have a shot of Jay from Jay and Silent Bob in here, the kid who played the stoner kid. And again, like a cheap joke, but man, had some funny bits in it too. I thought he was quite okay.
It had some hilarious bits in it. How sweet, dark meat. Only Freddy can get away with saying something like that.
Only Freddy gets away with saying that.
Freddy.
What about Deputy Scott Stubbs with those beautiful frosted highlights? You know,
I love Lachlan Monroe. He is so. That's not him, is it? Okay.
No, that's not him. But he usually plays that really goofy, dumb character, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And here he's actually playing the smart cop. Well, the cop who wants to kind of get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, he just wants to ask questions, and nobody wants him to answer those. Nobody wants to answer those questions. Yeah,
I'm happy with that too. I have no problems with the rest of the cops being part of a conspiracy out of wanting to
have no problems with it
the
either.
whole Freddy thing. I think it works.
This is like a competent version of what they tried to do in Freddy's Dead.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Yeah, it is. It's way more competent. You know.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I agree. This is also the first time, I think, in the Freddy films that we're seeing CGI. I was thinking about that because I'm going.
We saw it in Jason X, but it was really
Freddy
bad.
films. I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Freddy
Yeah,
films.
here it's not too bad at all. Like we have
No,
some good horror scenes.
there's a couple
Yeah.
of iffy effects overall,
It's
but
2003
it
though.
it holds up. I think that
Yeah.
I think the CGI Freddy caterpillar looked kind of wonky, and the death that followed, where not Jay from Clerks was chopped in half, I thought that that was a little bit wanting. But overall, I
I would
think the effects
suggest
held up.
21 years old. That's all I'm going to say on the CG
Okay.
on that one.
You know what? Lord of the
21
Rings
years
is also 20 years old.
old. Snap. You win
I'm
that
just
round,
saying.
Mr.
I'm just saying.
Gaston. No, you're 100% right. I have to say I'm wrong there. Um,
I don't
no,
have
look,
it.
uh, the little subtle effects I like though. There was a scene, and it's like little things that they did that I really liked. Like the bit with the kid, his friend, who we said we should have followed, hits the glass after being set on fire in the dream, right? And then he goes and faces the wall, and then we just see like Freddy's blade appear on his face.
Yeah, that
Nicely
was
done.
really cool. That was really
The
cool.
hallway scene where she's in a dream and when she sees a little girl in the hospital, and there are blood droplets hitting the ground and then disappearing, kind
Yeah.
of like leading her. Again, love little like that was a great little touch as well. And you kind of mentioned in the beginning, but it becomes really frustrating in this movie when you realize they didn't make sequels because of this film. Because they
They
kind of got most things
tried.
right.
They tried so hard to make sequels to this movie. As a matter of fact, this movie almost had a special guest star at the end and they just didn't have the budget to do this. What was going to happen was they were going to be fighting at Crystal Lake, and all of a sudden the sinkhole was going to open. It was going to swallow all the lake water, and it was going to pull both Freddy and Jason down into hell. And the human kids were like, "Oh, that was weird. Let's go home." And they would leave, and then you go down to the bottom of the sinkhole, and Freddy and Jason stand up about the time that this figure comes out of the smoke, and it's Pinhead. And he looks at them and says, "Gentlemen, what seems to be the problem?" And then it just cuts to black. And that was
They
gonna
did do a
set
bit
that
of
up.
that. I
Yeah.
think, and it's baffling why they didn't get one off, because it wasn't just Pinhead they talked about. They talked
No.
about trying to get Michael Myers. Also, Ash. Ash was a
The
big one.
the Ash spec script, I believe, I think it was the spec script, was eventually turned into a comic miniseries. So if you find Ash versus Freddy versus Jason, that is what the movie could have been.
That's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, but they do a lot in this film to not disrespect the lore and the myths of these franchises. I thought that was a good thing about this movie, that I never felt they trotted on anything knowingly.
There was one thing,
Okay.
one singular thing that they did that I thought,
Mhm.
really, we're going to do that? And it's such a nitpicky thing, but me as a horror fan, I keep track of these things. And that was Jason's fear of water. It makes sense if you think about it, but
Yeah.
Jason has had absolutely no problem barreling into bodies of water going after people before.
Well, he's been
We
coming
we've
out of them for the last few
yeah,
films too.
he's had no
I love
problem
the
with water
idea though.
before. Yeah, it's a great idea. It thematically it makes sense. Character wise, it makes sense. He would be scared
Yeah.
of water, but in this movie, it doesn't make sense. And
No.
so I have to
No.
say, really?
Well, I mean, I suppose there would have been some challenges, aren't there, in the script writing for this, because you are going up against the unstoppable force, aren't you? So you have to give him a flaw in some way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Not
think
right.
they could have used his mom more though. His mom could have been the thing that he was scared of. And I don't know, maybe having him finally break free of his mom could have been character development for our boy Jason. He could have grown. Maybe he could have set himself free and just instead of
Yeah, and
killing for his mom, he's just killing for
we
the
have
heck
an
of it now.
epilogue of him moving to a new town and settling in and maybe meeting a girl of his dreams. I mean, like,
And killing her, yes.
yes.
It could happen.
No.
Our boy could have a happy ending one of these days.
It must be a tricky thing too because there are no heroes really.
No.
We've got a film of villains and victims. That's all we have in this. No one's really like anyone that even comes off as heroic is quickly dispatched at some point.
R.I.P.
Some of the
Lockwood
characters die in matter-of-fact ways that I'm surprised of. Like one of the main girls, right, where she's passed out and we have a scene which is pretty disturbing of a young man going to take advantage of her in the cornfield, right? And she's one of the main girls in this film, right? Her boyfriend's the one who got dispatched early on. Anyway, she's passed out and he's on top of her. Now in the dream, right, she's stuffed herself into a locker and Freddy's going to come after her, right? This is where Freddy's opportunity is. And then, like, all of a sudden, Jason comes in and stabs the guy through the back with his giant pole and just kind of hits her in the stomach. And that's how she dies. She doesn't die because she was killed. She died because she was just in the wrong place. He was just trying to kill the dude. And I thought that was odd. Like, the way some of these deaths played out, they weren't as significant as maybe I would have thought they would have been.
I'm thinking also of the nerd character. I can't remember his name, but
yes,
he basically died of his injuries.
Yeah, he bled to death.
Yeah, he bled to death, which I'm like, okay, it makes sense, but that's kind of anticlimactic for his character.
Yeah, like, he needs to be thrown out a window. He needs to be, I don't know, his head cut off with a machete. He needs some of the classics.
Yeah, but he gets his last words. Though. Yeah, he gets final thoughts with the girl of his dreams, 5 seconds before she dies.
Yes. But all those little tropes and some of those classic scenes that you're expecting out of these horror films, it's weird to me. Oh, that. And that's kind of where I'm leading to, Jason.
It's brutal.
The fights between those two are so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
Even though they pull off wrestling moves,
they do, and it's okay. Well, he, elbow drops a couple of times. So it's, like, at this point, they're going full Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
All right? They are not holding back at that point. They know it's goofy what they're presenting. Well, we're buying into it. Like, there's even a moment, Jace, the classic where Jason throws someone out the window. He throws Freddy out the window, but hangs on to him and then drags him like he's on a bar from a Western barroom scene and drags him through the house. Ridiculous, stupid, doesn't make sense.
And
it's fun.
And the fact that Freddy's going, oh no,
yes!
oh no, the whole time. You're just watching it thinking,
stupid, but I love it, Jace.
It's great. They embrace the stupidity, and that's what I love about this movie. Is that they could have made it gritty and realistic, but they knew what they were, and it's fine. It is perfectly fine.
This is, again, a thing where it had to have got caught up in legal issues why they didn't make a sequel. It's got to be, right? Sure. I mean, why? The thing made $120 million off a $30 million budget. It made money, Jason. And that's just the local box office, not the global box office. And I can tell you right now, here in Australia, that film was on for a good few months because the kids were going back again and again to see it here because they loved it. They absolutely adored the film, and so did I. So even through its stupidity.
It's kind of funny. We're all buying movie tickets on our phones and everything like that nowadays, but this is actually the last movie that I went to go see in theaters where it was sold out and I couldn't get in.
Oh, so you had to line up and then you were...
Yeah, so we had to line up, and I had to get a ticket for like midnight that night. I was so mad because I just wanted to know who was going to win and what the movie is going to be like. But man, it was worth the wait. I loved it. It was so much fun.
And I think, for all the minor criticisms we had, this was at a time where we had spent 20 years with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
In different degrees. Some really great experiences, some not so great. This film is about, look, hey.
What do you mean by that?
Celebrating.
It's not all my fault. It is mostly his fault.
It's something to do with it, yeah. No, it's a celebration of these franchises. I think that's what the film really is. I don't think it's trying to push the franchise further. I think it's all about going, wasn't this great that we had these movies? Let's have a good time, throw logic out the window, and just kind of go for it. You know, I mean, there you go. That's the moment, isn't it? When he literally looks at the camera and winks. We know it's just for laughs and nothing really mattered in this film, and we're just having a good time.
And we did. We had such a great time with this movie.
I wonder if it was written in the script for Freddy to be keep fourth wall breaking. But I also think that's a strength because that's telling the audience that, hey, this is not the first film. We're going to have some fun tonight, guys. And I wonder if that was something they came up with on set or that was written in there, because I think it's very important to keep setting the tone of the type of film they were making, because it's there. There's no apology. They're not trying to make high art. They're not trying to make the best horror film. They're just having fun.
Yeah, just having fun. And of course, it kicked off an entire genre that is still going on today of crossover horror fights. We had Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. We had Great White versus Sharktopus. Anaconda versus Python. I don't know. Luke Skywalker versus Captain Kirk. Godzilla
versus Kong.
Yeah, I mean, this movie showed them the way. Showed them the way to bigger box office.
And look, look, it's just it's something that I kind of had a little bit of sadness at the end of it, because I look back and I go, so for 21 years we haven't been able to have any of that. We haven't been able to have that franchise in the spirit that we wanted it. They tried, but they failed, and we'll get into them because I believe that's our next lot of movies in this franchise. We're not done just yet, are we, Jace?
No, we're not.
What comes first? I think it's Friday the 13th reboot, isn't it?
I believe you are right. I think the Friday the 13th reboot comes next, and then, oh dear, we get the Robert Englund-less Nightmare on Elm Street.
Now, I'm going to say, Jackie Earle Haley at that time had come off Watchmen. I was really looking forward to that film, because I thought, well, if you can't have Robert, what a great character actor you could have, is having that guy. Because he'd come off Watchmen, and I thought he was an amazing actor. I'd seen him in, what was the name of the film? Really disturbing film that he was in, playing a predator. But and I'm thinking he's going to be an awesome Freddy.
He was like a yapping chihuahua.
There are chunks of that movie I don't remember. Massive chunks of that movie. I cannot remember.
I just remember
trauma-related.
I just remember thinking, this Freddy's like a chihuahua, just running around you going, and just like, you're just not scared of him. Nothing threatening about the dude at all. But we'll talk about it.
You know, something I thought about a while ago, because my wife's a massive Supernatural fan. And I always thought, if you did Supernatural at the cinema, wouldn't it be great to kind of make those Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein movies, but make it the Supernatural guys? And not make it a comedy. Supernatural's pretty funny, actually. But have that, where you could have had those two guys, Jensen Ackles and the other guy, revisiting some of these great, they're dealing with Pinhead in one movie, or they're dealing whatever. That's what I would do, because I'm telling you, Supernatural's that big, it would make hundreds of millions of dollars if you did that kind of thing.
You know what? New Line also owns the rights to Harold and Kumar. So Harold and Kumar versus Freddy. There's
that famous story
movie right there.
Have you heard that famous story Kevin Smith tells? I'm sure you have, about one of the Weinsteins approached him after Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back did quite well for one of Kevin Smith's films. And they went, we have a great idea. We own Michael. We own Pinhead. We own these characters. Why don't we do a Jay and Silent Bob movie against the horror characters? This is a true story. And apparently Kevin Smith went, I don't know. And he went to Ben Affleck about that idea and said, can you believe Harvey's basically said he wants me to write a Jay and Silent Bob movie, but it's against the horror characters? And apparently Ben Affleck went back to him and goes, that is the stupidest idea in the world, but I bet it would make a bunch of money.
I would have
and
seen
I
it.
think to myself, why didn't you do that, Kevin Smith? You had the access to it at the time. You should have done that.
He had to do Jersey Girl, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's why we got the Silent Bob character in this one. I don't. The J character.
I don't know, but don't hate on Jersey Girl that much. That's a sweet film. That's a sweet film. I don't care.
Is it though?
That gets unfairly maligned, Jersey Girl.
Does it though?
It does. Have you seen that gets mixed up with the other one that Ben Affleck and J-Lo was in, which was absolutely awful.
That was Gigli or something like that.
Gigli, yeah, and it came around the same time. We kind of got caught into that, but anyway, that's it. We'll be back with this franchise next time, going to 2009 reboot. But before we get there, Jason, I do believe there is a movie we're doing next time.
Oh yes, because it is 2024. And a very cultish movie takes place in the year 2024, starring a young Don Johnson and a dog. And it is called A Boy and His Dog. And if you know...
Never heard of it.
You know. It's different and it's interesting, and it takes place in the year 2024. So we're going to see what people of the 1980s thought that the future was going to look like.
I thought Don Johnson was born in that white pantsuit. I didn't even know he had a career before Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah. I'm
fascinated.
Yeah, he did things. He did things.
So, well, and this was one of them, apparently, A Boy and His Dog. So that's what we'll be checking out next on the VHS Vault, won't we, Jason? Before we go back to where you are today at Camp Crystal Lake.
Yes, that is what we're going to do.
And good point. Please remember to like, subscribe, and join in all the fun here at the VHS Vault. And again, we want to thank all the people who have been supporting us. Jace, take it from here. How can they keep supporting us? And maybe we'll give a shout out to some of our already great supporters.
Well, one thing you can do is join our Patreon. There's a link to it in the video description below. If you join our Patreon, you get exclusive videos that nobody else gets in various states of undress.
And it's cheap, just like us.
Absolutely. $5 is the lowest tier. $5 is nothing. You spent $5 just watching the show and didn't even know it. You can find my buddy over there on Pop Culture Spread. You can also find him here at the Jason Roy Gaston YouTube channel.
Always here.
Yes, we are here, and we are waiting. Before we leave, though, we did a show about a month ago about a movie called Robot Jocks. And in that movie, we talked about how much we enjoyed the star of Robot Jocks, one Gary Graham. Gary Graham shucked his mortal coil this week. He has gone to the alien nation above. But before we leave today, we wanted to give one last thumbs up to our friend, our mascot,
our Achilles.
Gary Graham. This is for you. Everybody give a thumbs up for Mr. Graham.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Oh, there we go. Still learning this whole producing things, aren't you?
What are you talking about? That was perfect. I forgot. Alien versus Predator. That was another one that came out because of this movie.
Oh, that's another huge one, and we should talk about that one day.
We should.
I have
it makes
some thoughts on that film.
It makes no sense because both sides are both alien and they are both predators. So the title could be referring to anyone.
Well, makes more sense than the sequel.
we don't talk about the sequel.